Hello and welcome to This Day in History for February 11th. February 11th is the 42nd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 323 days remaining until the end of the year, except for leap years when there's 324 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is circumscribe. Circumscribe is a verb, and it means to draw a line around, to enclose within bounds, to limit or restrict. It comes to us from Latin, from words that literally mean around, and to write, which came through Latin ultimately from the Indo-European root scrib, which means to cut, separate, or shift. These roots have also given us such other terms as manuscript, subscribe, scripture, scribble, describe, circumflex, and circumspect. Now I'd like to take a moment to mention that links to my research are included in the show notes, and to ask you to go ahead and click that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and share this video with others through email and your social media. And with that, we're going to start in the year 1778, when Voltaire, who had been in exile for 28 years, returned to Paris. On February 11, 1794, the first session of the United States Senate opened to the public. Happy birthday to the firstborn of Saoagawea, the Shoshone interpreter and guide to the Lewis and Clark expedition, born on February 11, 1805. The infant was named Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, and Saoagawea carried him on her back in an Indian cradle board. Nicknamed Pomp or Pompey by William Lewis, Jean-Baptiste grew up to be an explorer and lived to the age of 61. There's lots more about him, but maybe for another time. This is the birthday of Thomas Alva Edison, born in Milan, Ohio on February 11, 1847. He eventually amassed 1,093 patents, the most patents ever issued to a single person in American history. A few of his inventions are the phonograph, the light bulb, and the movie camera. On February 11, 1858, a 14-year-old French peasant girl named Marie Bernadette Soubirous experienced the first of a series of visions of the Virgin Mary. The apparition asked that a chapel be built at the cave grotto and told Bernadette to drink of the water from the spring. Many healings have been said to have occurred as a result of drinking from the waters of Lourdes. Bernadette was later canonized and is now known as Saint Bernadette. Emma Goldman was arrested on February 11, 1916 for the crime of distributing information about birth control. This was the last day of the Yalta conference in 1945, which we've mentioned before. Back in the day, recording companies would pay disc jockeys listening fees to evaluate the commercial possibilities of records, wink wink, nudge nudge, a practice known as Payola. Of course, the DJs denied that such fees affected their choices and what to play on the air. They were pretty good at defending the practice too, until a DJ named Stan Richard, in comparing it to motherhood, apple pie, and the American way of life, said, "It's primarily built on romance. I'll do for you, what will you do for me?" This comment caught the attention of President Eisenhower, who, on February 11, 1960, weighed in against the practice of payola, condemning it and calling it an issue of morality. Aside from the actual quid pro quo of pay for play, it was seen as an abuse of public trust. On February 11, 1970, Japan launched its first satellite, making Japan the fourth space power. On this day in 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison. Whitney Houston was found dead on this day in 2012. Her song, "I Will Always Love You," became the best-selling single by a female artist in music history. Of course, I've placed a link in the show notes. And that's all I've got for you today. As always, links to my research are included in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share if you found this interesting or informative. And perhaps my actual face will be back on camera tomorrow. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. I would like to take a moment to encourage you to like that share button. Okay. So many mistakes. Oh, come on now. Where were we? There goes the puppy. There's a good girl. Good girl. I don't know how all that's going to go together, or if it's even going to make it to the video. We'll just see. That's not going to go. Probably cut all that out. That'll all be laying on the cutting room floor. So I'll just do that whole thing over. That might not make it into the video. We'll see. Changing it up.